Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to start a series of explanation of one of the most longish poems of Wordsworth, that is Ode on Imitations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood. So firstly we'll start with poet's introduction, which is William Wordsworth. So William Wordsworth from 1770 to 1850 was a renowned English romantic poet, best known for his celebration of nature and his pioneering contributions to the Romantic movement. He was famous for works like Line Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey and I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, also known as Daffodils. His most influential work, Lyrical Ballad in 1798, marked a turning point in English poetry, emphasizing the power of nature and the importance of individual existence. Moving forward, now we'll discuss some poems introduction. This poem is a Pindaric ode. Ode is a type of poem that follows a style and form of the ancient Greek poets named Pindar. This kind of poems consist of strophe, antistrophe, and epode. Wordsworth wrote this poem at the height of his genius, somewhere around 1798 to 18th century, and after that, due to aftermaths of French Revolution and some personal tragedies, he could not write that much. This is one of his most lengthy poems, which consists of 11 stanzas and it does not have any rhyming scheme. Poem is not just a praise of nature but also kind of connection of nature with his mind and self. And the most important point is that this poem reflects Wordsworth's philosophy of nature, that nature have healing and transformative influence on human soul, which is a hallmark of romantics. Now we will discuss the importance of its long title, Ode on Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood, or we can say it is a summary of the whole poem. So the word ode on in at the start of the title is used for some insensate things or things which don't have senses, or we can say non-living things. uh, for example, the imitations, that is a non-living or insensate thing, while for the living or sentient beings the poet uses the word ode to. Intimations means some any news before the happening of the incident, and immortality, as we all know, it means eternal life. So poet is trying to say that he's going to tell us the intimations or news of immortality, how we could achieve immortality from the recollections of early childhood, some memories of early childhood. So basically, poet is not going to give us some news how we can attain eternal life, but he's going to give us some means to reach the level of immortality, how we could achieve the pleasure of immortality by traveling back to the childhood. We can say that it is easy to say that we could achieve immortality by recollections of early childhood, but it cannot be attained. But our Wordsworth helped us and teach us how we could attain the immortality from memories of our early childhood in the poem. The child is father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. Now, this stanza is a prelude, which means this stanza is not part of this poem, but it is an idiom, word from another Wordsworth poem named My Heart Leaps Up. It is an important phrase because Wordsworth claimed that child is a foundation from which adult learns. A child is more connected to God because they just started journey away from God. So basically, वर्ड्सवर्थ का ये बिलीव था कि एक चाइल्ड अपने बर्थ से पहले नेचर के बिल्कुल करीब होता है, वो नेचर के अंदर ही रहता है। जैसे वो पैदा होता है, देन इट स्टार्ट मूविंग अवे फ्रॉम द गॉड और अवे फ्रॉम नेचर। So that's why he's saying that child is father of man because child is more connected to nature or to God or spirituality than an adult. So we can summarize it as that Wordsworth called life as a journey away from God, and child have more enlightened spirits and deeper knowledge than any adult. These are some of the difficult words from stanza number 1. Please note them. Firstly, we'll read the whole stanza, try to read and comprehend it with me, and then I'll explain it line to line. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth, and every common sight to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now as it hath been of yore. Turn wheresoever I may, by night or day, the things which I have seen, I now can see no more. Now I'll try to explain it. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth and every common sight to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. Now, Wordsworth is saying that there was a time when everything was so new and stranger for him, and everything as the natural element inspired him, and everything seems to have a heavenly light and heavenly presence in it. सो वर्ड्सवर्थ कहना चाह रहा है कि देयर वाज अ टाइम ऑफ चाइल्डहुड जब ये मेडोज ग्रोव स्ट्रीम एवरीथिंग वाज न्यू टू हिम he as we know that child and every kid have a curiosity, so these things are stranger and new for him, and he could see a celestial light, a celestial presence in them. But as it is now, as it had been of yore, turn wheresoever I may, by night or day, the things which I have seen I now can see no more. But now he's complaining about something that is lost. He's saying that now I'm an adult, and now everything, every beauty lost its charm because now he's experienced everything. There's nothing new, nothing stranger for him, so he lost its charm. As a child, its charm as a child have it this kind of curiosity to touch and experience everything. Now I even lost that curiosity. Now day or night are not as beautiful as heavenly for me as if they were before, because now it's part of a day. Like अब तो ये रोज कब आता है, दिन रात सूरज flowers grass everything, वो ये सब कुछ बहुत दफ़ा देख चुका है, so दिल is lost its charm for him, and he's complaining, he's not happy about this, he's saying that this is something bad. Students, these are some difficult words from stanza number 2. Please note them. The rainbow comes and goes, and lovely is the rose. The moon doth with delight look round her when the heavens are bare. Waters on a starry night are beautiful and fair. The sunshine is a glorious birth, but yet I know wherever I go that there hath passed away a glory from earth. Now I'll start explaining it. He says that rainbow comes and goes, and lovely is the rose. The moon doth with delight look round her when heavens are bare. Now continues with the previous idea. He's explaining in detail about the beauties of nature that he once loved and adorned. For example, the rainbow, the rose, the moon, on a starry night when no smoke or pollution in air and sky was bare. And now he cannot able to comprehend them or enjoy them as he did once. Now here, poet uses a personification of moon. So personification is a literary device where human traits, emotions, or intentions are attributed to non-human entities such as animals, inanimate objects, abstract concepts, or natural forces. It is a way to make descriptions more vivid and relatable, allowing readers to connect emotionally with the subject. So in the line, the moon doth with delight look round her when the heavens are bare, poet uses personifications because he's saying that मून किसी लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म किसी लिविंग थिंग की तरह अपने इर्द गिर्द देख रहा है सो दैट्स एन ह्यूमन क्वालिटी विच यू हैव गिवन टू द मून नेक्स्ट he says that the sunshine is a glorious birth, but yet I know wherever I go that there hath passed away a glory from earth. So he's calling sunshine as a glorious birth, means as a start of a new day is a blessing. But now the beauty has passed away. It is lost because now his perceptions are changed. So saying that beauty is lost. He had undergone transformation. So basically, the whole idea of the stanza is that के वर्ड्सवर्थ इन सारी चीज़ों को रेनबो रोज मून स्टेरी नाइट ये सब उसके लिए बहुत ब्यूटीफुल और जॉयफुल था एट वेरी यंग एज एज व्हेन ही वाज चाइल्ड. नाउ सनशाइन या इन सब चीज़ों की ग्लोरी या ब्यूटिफिकेशन उसके लिए ख़त्म हो चुकी है बिकॉज he has undergone some experiences or he's transformed. So he's saying that beauty is lost, but basically beauty is not lost, he is changed. Stanza number 3. Now, while the birds thus sing a joyous song, and while the young lambs bound as to the tabor's sound, to me alone there came a thought of grief. A timely utterance gave that thought relief, and I again am strong. The cataracts blow their trumpets from the steep. No more shall grief of mine the season wrong. I hear the echoes through the mountains throng. The winds come to me from the fields of sleep. Now I'll explain it. Now, while the birds thus sing a joyous song, and while the young lambs bound as to the tabor's sound. So here poet is giving a joyous imagery of nature. Imagery refers to the use of vivid and descriptive language to create mental pictures or sensory experiences for readers or listeners. It appeals to the five senses of sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. So this description of birds singing, lamb dancing, and tabor sound, or we can say sound of drums beating, are examples of auditory imagery, which means imagery related to our hearing sense. So you can write it down. There's three kind of auditory imagery in these lines. Number one, bird singing. Number two, lambs dancing and jumping. And number three, tabor sound or the sound of drums beating. To me alone there came a thought of grief. A timely utterance gave that thought relief, and I again am strong. Here we can see the mood swings, or we can say stream of consciousness in Wordsworth thinking, which fluctuate from one thing to other, which normally happens with a normal human being. Now, he's saying that thought of grief. Now, the reasons of this grief could be multiple because that's our assumptions. We can assume that this reason of this sorrow might be the news of his brother's death occurred around that time when he wrote this poem, or it could be the grief of loss of childhood. And in second line, when he say a timely utterance gave that thought relief. Now that timely utterance also have some assumptions. We can say it timely utterance which soothe could be his poems like Rainbow and Resolution and Independence, which he wrote in 1802. That his writings gave him relief from his sorrows that weighed him down, or we can say that his recollection from his childhood. It could also be the timely utterance which helped him soothe his grief, and then he's strong again. The cataracts blow their trumpets from the steep. No more shall grief of mine the season wrong. Now, the beauty of nature and waterfalls. So we all know the cataracts are the small waterfalls, so the beauty of nature and waterfalls restore him, and he find the solace or peace in nature. And he used the word season wrong, which means that it's not fair and it's not okay that in this happy joyous scene in which cataracts are blowing, in which trumpets are beating, and he remains in grief. So he says that in joyous, happy scenario, his unhappy mood may spoil the harmony of the nature, or spoil the vibe, we can say. I hear the echoes through the mountains strong. Now he's giving another example of nature, which is helping him to regain his strength and trying to uplift human spirit even in the moments of sorrow. So the winds come to me from fields of sleep. Now here poet is using a metaphor of sleep, because he's saying that as sleep restore our body and mind, same did the wind. For example, we can say same did the nature from fields bring peace and renewal sense, and again the strongness to him, back to him, because we can say कि जैसे वो पहले कह रहा था कि वो ग्रीफ में है, तो ऑल दिस नेचुरल एलिमेंट्स रीस्टोर हिम, इन सब ने मिलकर उसका मूड जो है वो दोबारा से ठीक कर दिया. A metaphor is a figure of speech where one thing is directly compared to another, implying that they are alike in some significant way. Unlike a simile, which uses like or as, a metaphor assert that one thing is another, creating more direct and impactful comparison. So the poet is saying that fields of sleep, तो मतलब जैसे उन्होंने कहा है कि कोई लाइक एज कुछ भी नहीं, एक डायरेक्ट जो है वो कंट्रास्ट होता है, तो फील्ड्स ऑफ स्लीप इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ मेटाफर. These lines are also part of stanza number 3. And all the earth is gay, land and sea give themselves up to jollity, and with the heart of May doth every beast keep holiday. Thou child of joy, shout round me, let me hear thy shouts, thou happy shepherd boy. Now I'll explain it. And all the earth is gay, land and sea give themselves up to jollity. So gay means happy and jollity is festival. So they are all joining in happy festival of nature. यानी कि अर्थ भी हैप्पी है, लैंड एंड सी जो है वो भी फेस्टिवल ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं, सो दे आर ऑल enjoying this festival. Which festival? He is explaining further lines. And with the heart of May doth every beast keep holiday. So May in our Asian countries is like very warm weather and not that much enjoyable. But in European countries मई का जो महीना होता है वो एक month of relaxation, month of peace, month of enjoyment होता है उनके लिए, because rest of the year is very cold for them and May is like a blessing for them. So he's saying, he's also using the word holiday, which is also playful thing and all that. So he's saying that in the heart of May everything is gay and everything is in festival and everything is playing like in holiday. They're all happy and they're all enjoying. Moving forward, thou child of joy, shout round me, let me hear thy shouts, thou happy shepherd boy. So he's saying child of joy to that shepherd boy who was beating trumpet in the previous stanza. We like वो जो टेबल साउंड था, जो बीटिंग ऑफ ड्रम था, वो एक शेपर्ड बॉय कर रहा था और वही उसी शेपर्ड बॉय को अब ये डायरेक्टली बात कर रहा है उससे, because he is not at the center of all this joy and a part of it too. Sorry, I think I've said it wrong. I meant to say that he is at the center of the this joy and he's part of it because he's a child, as he have mentioned, the child of joy. और हम पहले भी ये बात डिस्कस कर चुके हैं कि according to Wordsworth, child जो है वो ज़्यादा natural elements के करीब होता है. So he's saying a child to the child of joy, or we can say child of nature. So he's saying child of joy to the shepherd's boy because he have pure and uncorrupted joy and uncorrupted soul, which Wordsworth longs to have. He's complaining about that he have lost that joy and that pleasure which that child have. Also, this also child of joy. This joy symbolizes youthful happiness he no longer have. So he's calling that child to shout around him, to play around him, so he could at least enjoy watching that child with spiritual light on him. So these are some of the difficult words from stanza number 4. Please note them on your notes. Stanza number 4. Ye blessed creatures, I have heard the call, ye to each other make. I see the heavens laugh with you in your jubilee. My heart is at your festival, my head hath its coronal. The fullness of your bliss, I feel it all. O evil day, if I was sullen, why earth herself is adorning this sweet May morning. Now I'll explain it. Ye blessed creatures, I have heard the call, ye to each other make. I see the heavens laugh with you in your jubilee. Now he's talking about those children, and we know that when children are playing and they shout at each other in happiness and excitement. So he's talking to that shepherd boy and he's saying that I have heard your conversations you make to each other, and I have seen that even the heaven is participating in your festival, and even the earth and heaven and sky, they are all playing with you, and yet they are laughing while looking at you playing. My heart is at your festival. My head hath its coronal. The fullness of your bliss, I feel it all. Now he's saying that my heart is also happy with you while looking at you, and my head also have that ring of flower on it, because as we have earlier discussed, it was मंथ ऑफ मई एंड ऑल्सो स्प्रिंग. तो स्प्रिंग में जो है वो एक एक बच्चों की गेम होती है कि वो फ्लावर्स तोड़ तोड़ के और उसका एक सर्कल बना के और फिर उसको सर पे पहनते हैं. सो दैट इज कोरोनल एंड ही इज सेइंग दैट माय हेड आल्सो हैज दैट कोरोनल, and I can feel the happiness of your childhood, and he's calling that childhood as a blessing. And then he said, I feel it all. Now this repetition of feel, we can say it also, it can, we can say it emphasis on how he's feeling and how deep he's feeling the impact of that scene. So this mention of my heart and my head shows कि वो physically and mentally, we can say from the soul, वो उसके बॉडी, उसका सोल सब जो है वो इस पूरे फेस्टिवल को एंजॉय कर रहे हैं, और वो इन सबको बच्चों को खेलता हुआ देख के खुश हो रहा है. ओ इवल डे, इफ आई वाज sullen, why earth herself is adorning this sweet May morning. Now, again, his mood changes, but he is trying to overcome those emotions, saying that if I remain unhappy, it would be a terrible thing in such context. That when even Earth herself is adorning and decorating itself with the flowers of spring, because it's May morning and children are collecting these flowers everywhere, maybe to make coronal as he's wearing. So he's telling us the beauty of that scene. सो वो कहना चाह रहा है कि इतना ब्यूटीफुल सीन है, इवन जो है वो हेवंस और अर्थ है वो भी उनके गेम में पार्ट ले रहे हैं। और स्प्रिंग मॉर्निंग है, एक ब्यूटीफुल सनलाइट है, एक फ्लावर्स हैं हर तरफ। इतने ब्यूटीफुल सिनेरियो में अगर मैं जो है वो अब unhappy होऊंगा, then it would not be fair. I should be happy by this scene and I should forget my griefs for the sake of this scene. These lines are also part of stanza number 4. And the children are culling on every side, in a thousand valley far and wide, fresh flowers where the sun shines warm, and the babe leaps up on his mother's arm. I hear, with joy I hear, but there is a tree of many one, a single field, which I have looked upon, but of them speak of something that is gone. Now I'll explain it. And the children are culling on every side, in a thousand valley far and wide, fresh flowers, while the sun shines warm. Now culling is collecting flowers. So he's saying that children are collecting flowers on every side, because वो कह रहा है कि ऐसा नहीं कि जैसे जहाँ मैं मौजूद हूँ वहाँ ही बच्चे खेल रहे हैं और वहाँ पे फ्लावर्स हैं, वहाँ पे बच्चे फ्लावर्स कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, एंजॉय कर रहे हैं, सनशाइन है। नहीं, इट्स इन अ थाउजेंड वैली फार एंड वाइड, इट्स एवरीवेयर। So he's also explaining the universality and timeless nature of beauty, and he's saying that everything is enjoying. So basically, he's just telling us the beauty of the scene के हर जगह पे जो है वो यही beauty है, हर तरफ यही sunshine, यही flowers है. And the babe leaps up on his mother's arm. I hear, with joy, I hear. Now, a baby which is so small that he could not go out with his siblings to play, but still he wants to go out. He wants to get down from his mother's arm and go outside and enjoy and play. So we can also analyze it as that nature have more peace and pleasure to give to that child, more than his mother's lap. Also, we can say that due to his closeness of nature, he's unable to avoid the calling of the nature, and he wants to go outside and enjoy with nature. I hear, with joy I hear. Now, I hear, there's a repetition of I hear three times. So, this repetition expresses his joy at being part of nature's harmonious celebrations. But there is a tree of many one, a single field which I have looked upon. So, despite his joy, suddenly become again contemplative, and he signal out a single tree among many. मतलब उसका मूड फिर से सैड हो रहा है, बिकॉज इन अ बंच ऑफ ट्री उसको एक सिंगल ट्री नज़र आ गया। मे बी उसको कुछ पर्टिकुलर कुछ समथिंग सिग्निफिकेंट याद आ गया हो उससे, दैट इज़ वाई ही वॉज मैंशनिंग दैट सिंगल ट्री। Both of them speak of something that is gone. Now he's saying that everything symbolizes a sense of loss and absence for him, because इसका mind वहाँ पे है that I have lost this beauty and pleasure. So everything seems to remind him that very point, that a sense of loss and absence, loss of something, which he'll explain in further lines. These few lines are also from stanza number 4. The pensy at my feet doth the same tale repeat. Whither is fled the visionary gleam? Where is it now, the glory and the dream? Now, in this line, the pensy at my feet, he's using another uh, personification, because he's saying that pensy, which is a small flower, वो उसके पाँव में आके और वही टेल रिपीट कर रहा है जो कि वो पोइम के शुरू से कह रहा है कि समथिंग इज लॉस्ट। तो वो एक ह्यूमन एट्रीब्यूट ऑफ स्टोरी टेलिंग और ऑफ टॉकिंग जो है वो पेंसी को दे रहा है। So that's an example of personification, and he's conveying the idea that everything around him, even that's the tree or a pansy, reminds him of the fading spiritual perception. Whither is fled the visionary gleam? Now he's having a nostalgia of childhood. Poet laments at the disappearance of a visionary gleam. Now, visionary gleam is a metaphor for spiritual wonder and divine insight he experienced as a childhood. वी कैन से कि विजनरी गलीम जो है वो उस क्रियोसिटी या उस स्ट्रेंजनेस को जो हमने शुरू में देखी थी और उस न्यूनेस को कह रहा है जो कि वो बचपन में एक्सपीरियंस करता था। एंड दैट परसेप्शन ऑफ ब्यूटी डिमिनिश एज वन ग्रोज ओल्डर। Where is it now, the glory and the dream? Now he is continuing lamenting. In this frame, he represents the transcendent joy and purity and imagination of childhood, which one allowed him to perceive the world in a mystical, almost divine light. मतलब वो ये कहना चाह रहा है कि बचपन में जो है वो इट हैज़ अ ग्लोरी इन दिस नेचर, नाउ ही इज लॉस्ट इट दैट. And these two lines, whither is fled the visionary claim, where is it now, the glory and the dream? They're an example of a literary device named rhetorical questions. A rhetorical question is a question posed not to elicit an answer, but to emphasize a point or provoke a thought. So in these last two lines, he's not expecting any answer. वो इसका answer नहीं मांग रहा. He's just questioning, and they are just questions. There is no need to answer that, and there are not any answer to them even. So these are an example of rhetorical questions. I'll explain the rest of the poem in next part. Thank you so much for listening this part. Please give your worthy suggestions about next point to explain and also how could I improve my explanations in the comments below. Till then, please like, share and subscribe my channel. Also press the bell icon to get the notification of our next video.